I highly recommend a serious study of Buddhism. That's what got me through it. I read sometime around then that for Mahayana Buddhists, just naming anything obscures the essence of its being. Woman, Caucasian, man, Latino, chickadee, maple tree, each becomes less of the existential whole when I force it to fit in some category. But I've been told to name stuff from infancy. Where's your nose? I was good at that one. What color is this? In school, we name the 4 major Civil War battles, but the naming ignores the anguish of those who died alone in the mud at Gettysburg, Vicksburg, Shiloh, or Antietam. The Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Washington County, or Ockwuck, or Orenco UU, or the church next to Max, or the historic Orenco Community Church, or the church that smells better than did the cat house next door, are all names that fail to identify the warm community I find here. Every year, I would challenge myself to learn each of my 150 students' names during the first week of classes. They, of course, enhance the challenge by sitting in different desks each day, doing all they could to make the task more difficult. When I finally recited the names perfectly, they then would demand that I call the names backward. I complied. Map, Lib, Enoch. Back there's, Inej and Enaid. We wear name tags here, not just to ensure that those of us nearing the end of our mental ropes get returned safely to our homes. We use each other's names to help establish a slightly deeper connection. Those social hour chats. How are you? What's new? Small talk that eventually may lead to larger and more meaningful talk. Those larger conversations are what allow us to do the real sit-down work of a caring community. How may I help you with the loss that you're feeling? When may I bring a meal to help out? I'm so happy that you are finally well now. May I care for the kids while you're at the hospital? Would you like to just sit here quietly together? It's those deeper connections, free of names, that allow me to feel the essence of the word namaste. I embrace the divine in you while I share the divine in me. Those we should just sit together moments, those chances to connect our existence beyond names and classifications, they are what build the nurturing community we make here. Speaking of community and names, I've spent a happy 37 years living with a Quakertarian who sometimes finds the wordiness or namingness of our worship disconcerting. In the silent Quaker meeting, as I understand it, one waits until moved by the Spirit to begin speaking. Were we to attempt the same practice here, the Spirit would likely move us all to speak at the same time and produce a cacophony of sound as boisterous as we hear in the social hall. We've got so much to say, so much to care about, and we so need to connect with each other. Names and community are part of what make us so loquacious. Speaking of names, I'm learning to name God after a lifetime of excluding the name in reaction to religions that presume to name and package my faith for me. As did some of you, I suspect I threw out the name God with the holy water. I'm not sure how deeply I believe in this God concept, but at least I'm trying to be more comfortable and open using the name. For a long time, I felt as did Dylan Thomas's father, who said, "It's not that I don't believe in God, I just don't like him." All that salt pillaring, desert wandering, locust plaguing, that made the God they'd sold me seem like a petulant and vengeful, a sort of an overpowered social vandal with whom I chose not to associate. But I found I liked to associate with people of faith who found strength in community and in caring for each other. What was I to do? Well, become a UU, of course. A man was shipwrecked on a desert island for 2 years. When the search party finally found him, he eagerly showed him all that he had done in his solitude. "Is that the home you built?" they asked, pointing to the collection of leaves and branches. "No," he said severely, "it is the church I built to pray in." They were touched. "And what is this other hut over here?" they said. "That," said the shipwrecked man disdainfully, "that is the church I wouldn't be caught dead in." I watched UU congregations in the Bible Belt, where I'm from, grow in reaction to the corresponding growth of evangelical fundamentalism and its political partner, the moral majority. A movement based on a bumper sticker set of fundamentalist cliches that so enraged free thinkers that they sought refuge in UU communities. They came running away from that church they wouldn't be caught dead in. But I don't want to build my faith in reaction to what I don't believe. That will lead me to a dangerous place. The UU Church of the Null Hypothesis, with services in the George Carlin Chapel, from the front door of which I can point a superior finger to that church I wouldn't be caught dead in. I've attended UU churches in the South where the name God wasn't uttered, as if the mere mention would somehow summon the raving religious spirit of a fundamentalist neighbor. In those UU churches, we considered only deity-free, cerebral topics, always employing the word existential. In those refuge communities, we asked about what is holy, but not about holy characters. If God were to enter the conversation, some seemingly feared that the congregant next to them might suddenly rise in a trance and begin speaking in tongues. And then what would you say to that person during coffee hour? Now, as a member of this church community that neither seems to fear the word nor presumes to define a God, I'm free to employ the name in ways convenient or meaningful for me. Naming a UU God is not exclusive or restrictive. I don't have to make a list of what God is not, thereby avoiding the sensible fears of the Mahayana Buddhist. I don't even identify her gender. But as I did with my students, I can also call the name in reverse, dog. And I try to keep that Solomon's head of Christ image out of my head. You know, the one you grew up with. A beatific glamour shot of a guy with perfectly coiffed hair, who, had that been his real appearance, would have been the pastiest man in the entire Middle East. Despite my youthful, determined protest of Protestantism, I went to churches which for some reason demanded that I always wear a shirt that fit me the previous year, but when combined with the required tie, choked me. I remember my early church experiences filled with oxygen-deprived hours of discomfort. When first exposed to religion, my deity communication with me, or any deity communicating with me, would have happened only if he with the nicely combed hair were able to extricate himself from the terms that buried him in obscure theological rubble. Transubstantiation, the Nicene Creed, God in three persons, original sin, resurrection, Holy Ghostedness, and a host of other terms that moved me farther and farther from the essence of all existence. The Mahayana Buddhists are right. The more we name, the less we are a part of. This God that I play with in my UU existence has no limiting definitions, no inexplicable will or benign neglect of human tragedies. She demands I not accept any easy answers, or as she plays hide and seek, always encouraging me to search anew. That continual search, never accepting yesterday's answer, makes this a vibrant faith for me. The freedom to search also gives me renewed freedom, freedom to renew elements of my faith, adding or deleting tenets as I seek out new answers and newer questions. The God I name, rename, misname, only hopes that you and I have a chance to celebrate and console one another. The work of consolation is up to me. This God accepts no blame, nor will she offer to help, other than to encourage me to breathe deeply and connect with the world in a spirit of gratitude. I'm constructing a rhetorical device, one where she doesn't demand reference for herself but encourages reference for all existence. Years ago, in high school, I think, I ran across a story about viewing the world from a state of reference. A venerated Buddhist priest invited his fellow clerics to a gathering in celebration of his new home, built overlooking a most serene scene. This home setting offered the most dramatic view of any in Japan. The party's generally convivial conversations included some muttered critical observations from several of the group. But there are no windows looking out on what must be the most spectacular view. If only we could see this beautiful landscape. What a mistake! Before they could speculate further on this apparent architectural oversight, tea was announced and the guests went to the sinks to wash in preparation. Not until they bent to wash at the basins did they find the home's only window, offering the landscape's inspiring view. Only those bent in a posture of reverence were able to engage nature's beauty. It's not so much that I have to have a God in my life, but a state of reverence is spiritually uplifting for me. As a Unitarian Universalist, I choose to explore, embrace, or disregard some of the names I bring to my faith. The work of faith is an expansive exercise. Sometimes it's expensive too. With principles that guide me toward what I shall promote rather than prescription of shall notting. My UU faith promotes expanding principled existence beyond the proscriptions guiding me to what I should avoid. Universalist Hosea Ballou argued with the Methodist minister, without the prospect of damnation and hell, I could steal your horse, I could hit you on the head, I could take all your possessions. Ballou replied succinctly, if you were a universalist, you wouldn't want to. Turns out that promoting and affirming is harder than shall notting. Thou shalt not is a simple checklist. Didn't kill anyone today, check. Didn't steal anything, check again. Didn't do any coveting, check. It's all good, but affirming and promoting are never done. UU principles don't come with a simple checklist. I affirm and promoted my connection to the web of existence. After I affirmed and promoted your spiritual growth, then there's always more that I have to do, and then I have to start all over again. And talk about demanding. I have to figure all this out myself with no help from edicts, encyclicals, elders, or any God other than a nod and a wink from the one I named today, and possibly poor Rickle. Plus guidance from my UU cat, Justice, who doesn't admit to always knowing his name. He reminds me of those Mahayana Buddhists who note that just naming something, pinning it down, God, pew, choice, cat, defines and restricts the connection to that larger web of which I am a part. That is what I'm naming and thinking at this moment. After the postlude, I reserve the freedom to start naming and thinking something else. Namaste.